From the grassy terrains of Paldea emerges Meowscarada EX. This new Stage 2 Pokemon EX from Paldea Evolved has the tactical Bouquet Magic ability, which damages your opponent's benched Pokemon, and the Scratching Nails attack, which can deal a maximum of 220 damage. Radiant Alakazam is a key card for this deck because of its Painful Spoons ability, which moves damage around on your opponent's board. If Meowscarada can make some magic happen, Medicham V's Yoga Loop attack can reward you with an entire extra turn. I can't wait to show off this Meowscarada EX deck on Pokemon TCG Live, and if you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe and check out ways you can support the channel in the description down below. Game 1, we're going first, and the opponent starts a Ralts, so assuming that they're playing Gardevoir, they won't really be able to do anything to us on the first turn, so we can pretty safely leave our Sprigatito out in the active, not really worry about it getting knocked out. So we'll grab this Bidoof with the Nest Ball, and like I said, we don't really have to worry about this getting KO'd, so we can pretty much just chill here, attach the Double Turbo to Sprigatito, and hold all these good cards in our hand. The opponent plays down a Gapejaw Bog, and attaches Psychic to Ralts, and then Iono. So Gapejaw Bog is not typical in a Gardevoir deck. We get a really good draw off of the Iono, Candy, Meowscarada, Ultra Ball, Grass Energy, and the opponent is actually playing Hisuian Zoroark V-Star with some sort of Ralts, Kirlia, Gardevoir, Gallade, etc. line in it. So Gapejaw Bog damaging the opponent's own Pokemon, and this should be relatively easy for Meowscarada EX because they're damaging their own Pokemon. It's part of their strategy. It's why Hisuian Zoroark V-Star is not a good deck. They have to damage all of their own Pokemon. There's too much damage spread around in the format. Prior to Meowscarada, just Sableye at least, or just Sableye was enough, but also Radiant Greninja's Moonlight Shuriken can be a problem for any deck that wants to have damage on their own board. So we'll go ahead and put 30 onto that Manaphy with Bouquet Magic. Draw some cards with Bibarel, and Colress here shows us a full line of Meowscarada EX. We don't really need the Floragato. I think this is fine. Just getting Sprigatito and another Meowscarada, so we don't have to Lost Zone those. Of course, our own Sprigatito here will get damaged by the Gapejaw Bog. I don't really have a reason to play the Beach Court yet. And then sometimes you don't want to attach the basic energies, but I think this is fine, especially since we have Bibarel to draw more cards if we need to. And then we also got to take some good prizes there. Colress and Ultra Ball will be really good, but we have Boss in our hand already, and if they just bench one more Hisuian Zoroark V, we're probably just going to knock it out with Boss. They bench a Radiant Alakazam, and then they're going to use that Radiant Alakazam to put extra damage onto our active Meowscarada from our benched Sprigatito, and they don't have a very stable setup at all. This is going to be a really easy game to close out from here. So we can put damage onto the Hisuian Zoroark, and then we can get our own Radiant Alakazam this turn as well to take two prizes. We can, two knockouts. We can take a prize on the Manaphy, and then we can also knock out the Hisuian Zoroark V because we have Boss's orders. So we'll do all that and use Industrious Incisors to draw up to 5 before taking a prize card in case the prize card is something that we're not going to play down. This way we get to draw more cards. Painful Spoons to move that damage on to the Manaphy, because we do need damage on the active so that we do the full 200 damage. 220 minus 20 for the double turbo energy on Scratching Nails. And that's knockout on the Zoroark, and we go down to 1-6 prize card lead, and the opponent scoops. Next game, the opponent is going first, and they have a Ralts start. Is it actually Gardevoir this time? Just attach Psychic Energy past. That looks like a Gardevoir hand to me. So we'll play assuming that our Pokemon are pretty safe from being damaged on the next turn. Nest Ball for Sprigatito. I could have Colressed prior to the Nest Ball. That's typically better. I should have Colressed prior to the Nest Ball. because if you get the Sprigatito with Colress, then you can use that Nest Ball for another Sprigatito or for another Pokemon, which is why Colress is typically going to be the first card in your sequence. So you can get those cards and then use your search cards in your hand to get other cards. It just gives you better odds. So a little bit of a missequence there, playing Nest Ball prior to the Colress at the start of the turn. The opponent evolves into Mirage Step Kirlia, and Mirage Step's 3 Refinement Kirlias. Luckily, I have an Escape Rope in my hand, so I can actually force them to bring up a Refinement Kirlia, and we can knock out one of those, because those are way more valuable now than the Mirage Step Kirlia. The Mirage Step has already done its job. I have Rare Candy into the Meowscarada, and I can also hold on to this other Rare Candy in case I get a Meowscarada off of the Bibarel. We can just get double Meowscarada down this turn. So I don't get a Meowscarada there. I do get Medicham, and then I can get another Sprigatito down. I don't really need the Radiant Alakazam yet, and then I'll go ahead and Iono, getting some more cards. So we'll go ahead and get the Radiant Alakazam this time with Nest Ball. I have a really good setup here. So we'll start spreading damage. In this matchup, we can do a lot of cool things with Painful Spoons and Yoga Loop and Bouquet Magic, because they're going to be damaging their own Pokemon to power them up with Psychic Recharge. So it's actually, I think, a pretty good matchup for me. They'll use Refinement and then Ultra Ball for a Radiant Greninja and play down a Collapsed Stadium. I could just get rid of the Sprigatito. 2 Meowscarada EX will be fine. The Meowscarada EX in the active is surely surviving this turn, I'd have to imagine. There's Iono. Not a great hand, but we can burn a couple cards out of there so we can draw more with Bibarel. They'll go ahead and use concealed cards. They still have 1 Refinement left for turn, and so they'll use that. Ultra Ball for a Shining Arcana Gardevoir, and they'll bench another Ralts. So they have a Gardevoir, 2 Kirlia, and a Ralts. Now evolving one of the Kirlias up into Gardevoir EX. Shining Arcana, draw 2 cards. And here comes Psychic Embrace. Let's see how much damage they're going to put on this Gardevoir for me, and what we can actually do with the damage next turn. Okay, so the Gardevoir is up to 80, so it has 60 damage left, 60 HP left. A Luminous Energy. I wonder what they're playing in there that makes Luminous Energy a viable card to play. So 80 damage on that. I have Painful Spoons, I have Bouquet Magic, I have Yoga Loop. So we can Bouquet Magic the benched Kirlia and Yoga Loop it this turn, or we could also just Painful Spoons it if we don't find the other double Turbo Energy. There's a lot of cool stuff we can do this turn to really mess up with their board. We have a Rare Candy for another Meowscarada EX, so that's going to be even more Bouquet Magic, and unfortunately the opponent concedes before I can do any of the cool stuff. Okay, game 3 with Meowscarada EX. So far, my opponents have scooped twice. Opponent going first, opening with Hawlucha, Ultra Ball away, double fighting, so this is going to be a Ting-Lu deck. They'll probably get, yeah, there's Ting-Lu EX, the alternate art coming down to the bench. Nest Ball for Koraidon EX, that's going to accelerate their energies. Nest Ball for Squawkabilly EX, all the alt arts, so they are playing full rarity Ting-Lu. Squawk and Seize getting rid of Hawlucha Research. That's really nice to see that they're already down both Hawluchas because they started one and discarded the other. Bench Radiant Alakazam, and it's going to take 20 damage from the Gapejaw Bog. Manually attach. They have an Ultra Ball. They're going even wider here. Probably getting their next Ting-Lu. There it is. And then they'll attach their energies from Koraidon to Ting-Lu. I top deck Iono, which is good because I didn't have a draw supporter yet, but I also don't want to Iono them because they only have 1 card in their hand and no way to draw cards on board. Level Ball here for Sprigatito. I just have to take the 20 damage from Gapejaw Bog. Nothing I can really do about it. Ultra Ball away, Grass Energy, and Boss is good in this matchup, so it's hard to discard the Boss, but I also don't want to get rid of Meowscaradas early. I can always get them back if I need to, but we'll just get rid of this boss, even though it is good for getting Ting Lu out of the active. But I'm thinking that my opponent doesn't have a lot going for them in that hand. Gonna go ahead and Iono anyway, because you know what? They did Ultra Ball at the end there, so they probably kept their one good card with Ultra Ball. A lot of times if the opponent has a one card hand, it can be misleading and you'll think that they have a bad hand, but you have to remember they drew 6 cards with Squawkabilly and then played their hand down to 1 card, so they kept probably a supporter card or something that could draw cards in their hand. And I needed to see more cards anyway, so Iono gets me into this new hand of 6, which has 0 cards I can use this turn, and I also wouldn't have wanted to draw into this from Iono next turn, so I'm glad that I dug 6 cards deeper, and now I have Colress's Experiment. They play Escape Rope, and I have to send out my Sprigatito. This isn't looking great for me, but Ting Lu EX is weak to grass, and that's going to be the saving grace here. I'm going to need to hit something off that Pokégear. I'm going to need Pokégear to come through for me. Maybe a Colress into a Rare Candy, into everything I need. This Ting Lu's looking scary. 290 HP, 3 fighting energy, an ability that really hurts. We'll go ahead and Artazon, thin out the deck, get a Sprigatito, and Pokégear. Pokégear into Colress. Let's see some good cards here with the Colress, please. No Rare Candy. I have Mew, so I can Escape Rope into the Mew. So I'll take 2 double turbos and an Escape Rope. Yeah, so it could be greedy to take the 2 double turbo energies, because like I'm looking ahead to future plays, but really the 1 in my hand will be fine for now, and the Energy Retrieval could prove to be really useful. So another turn without really doing much. And yeah, this isn't looking great, but like I said, Ting Lu is weak to grass, so we always have that on our side. And they're going to Iono me, so you can always have that happen. Your opponent can just misplay and give you a fresh hand when you don't have any way to draw cards on the board, and we take that. So they wanted non-damaged Ting Lu in the active because of my Scratching Nails attack. It's only going to knock them out if they already have damage. So they'll go ahead and play Escape Rope. And Land Scoop knocking out my Sprigatito, putting 20 on another Sprigatito. And now I have Rare Candy in my hand, but no Meowscarada. So Colress, we're looking for Ultra Ball or Meowscarada. There's Ultra Ball. We can finally do something. We can finally make some plays happen here. So play down the Artazon to get rid of the Gapejaw Bog and get down a Bidoof, which we've been sorely needing on the board. And then Ultra Ball, and we're going to be able to knock out this Ting Lu EX this turn because we have Nest Ball for the Radiant Alakazam. So we can just move damage onto the Ting Lu, and then Meowscarada EX one-shots the Ting Lu. So I'll Ultra Ball away Grass Energy because we don't actually need to Bouquet Magic this turn. They already have damage on their board, so we can just move the damage that's already there and then keep these other resources in our hand. The Floragato is going to be good to evolve down, and then we obviously need to hold on to the Bibarel for next turn. So we'll use Painful Spoons to move damage onto the Ting Lu, and then Scratching Nails for 400 damage. Gutsy Pickaxe gets a fighting energy, so that Koraidon will maybe be able to attack next turn, but I don't think it matters now that we've gotten a Meowscarada EX evolved. They have 4 prizes, so they could try to take some knockouts here on small Pokemon. They can knock out my Mew between Radiant Alakazam and Land Scoop. If they were to have bossed instead of Research, they could have knocked out 2 small Pokemon, but I don't think they will typically have the options to play exactly the cards they want. Ting Lu kind of just has to play whatever's in their hand. So if they had boss to knock out like Floragato Mew, and the next turn they could boss to knock out Medicham and win that way, but they didn't have a boss here, so I feel pretty comfortable that this will be a win for Meowscarada EX. They move damage from Medicham over to Bidoof, and it looks like they're not going to take a prize here this turn. They could have moved it to Mew, knocked out the Mew, putting more value into damaging the Bidoof so that I can't use Bibarel. which I don't think is correct here because I have everything I need. I have the Radiant Alakazam. Actually, they should have just damaged my Radiant Alakazam because then I couldn't move. Oh no, their Tinglu's already damaged. Never mind, it doesn't even matter. So I'll just move damage from something onto Koraidon. That way, both Tinglu and Koraidon are already splashed with some damage, and that means that Scratching Nails will be taking knockouts. So 400 damage again, and now I just need to get into a double Turbo Energy and a Meowscarada for next turn. There's the Ultra Ball, that's part of it. And if they don't have Tinglu active, I can use Bibarel now. Nest Ball for another Tinglu EX, and Wild Impact 220 to my Meowscarada. They go down to 2 prizes. All I need is a double Turbo Energy. I have the Ultra Ball already. Energy Retrieval, that's not going to cut it. I can Nest Ball, just get that card out of my hand. There's 2 double Turbos in a 20 card deck. I can draw, I can actually draw the full 5 with Bibarel. And then if I get a supporter from the Bibarel, I can play the supporter to draw more cards. And so I get the Meowscarada with the Ultra Ball, and then I can Energy Retrieval for just 1 energy, discard it, and then that's a full 5 draw for the Bibarel. Here we go, Industrious Incisors for 5, and there's no double Turbo there. So we'll just play down these cards, and the only supporter I have is Iono, so it's just going to be an Iono for 2 cards, and one of them is a double Turbo Energy. So that is the game right there. We can put 20 more damage onto the Koraidon because we'll do a flat 200 to it. It is not weak to grass. It's always important to check weaknesses, especially when you're hitting Pokemon that are all the same type. They might have different weaknesses. And we'll take 2 prizes there and win the game. That was a close one. Next up, our opponent starts with Ralt. There's been a lot of Ralt starts. And they'll play down a Fog Crystal. Now, this is a weird Ralt. It makes me think that they're not actually playing Gardevoir. Typically, you'll be playing the 1 energy attack Ralts is when you're playing Gardevoir. Battle VIP Pass. And Battle VIP Pass will get a Tinkaton, a little Tinkaton. I don't know all of the names, and a Mew. So we've got Little Tinky, a Mew, and another Ralts coming down onto the board. And they'll retreat into Mew, use the Mysterious Tail. For another Battle VIP Pass off the top, they're getting a really nice setup here, and I have a pretty good hand too, so this should be a good game. They're getting Feebas and another Tink. The Feebas evolves into Milotic, and then that has the ability that prevents their hand from being affected by my supporter cards. So if they have that Milotic in play, my Iono won't affect their hand, which is actually a really cool ability. But if they don't evolve it next turn, I can just Magic Bouquet the Feebas because it only has 30 HP. And then from here, it's just going to be a pass for me. I have a pretty good hand for next turn already, so regardless of what they do, they can knock out my Sprigatito with a Tinkaton double Turbo Energy if they can get the candy. But I'll have at least 1 Meowscarada next turn since they don't have anything that threatens a double knockout. There's the Rare Candy, evolving an alternate art Tinkaton EX with the big hammer attack. I love Tinkaton. Tinkaton is an awesome Pokemon. Really, really cool in the Scarlet and Violet video game. And I like that there's a Tinkaton EX and then a useful non-EX Tinkaton as well that draws cards. So I actually think this deck is really cool that my opponent's playing. They'll big hammer for 160 damage and knock out my Sprigatito, and I'm happy that they have a good setup because it doesn't look like either of us will be scooping this game, and this will be a great game to include in the video. So Ultra Ball away, double Grass Energy for Meowscarada, because we could just get those back with, like, look at this hand, it's so good. Play it down, Iono for 6. We can just get those Grass Energies back with an Energy Retrieval later. Hey look, there's an Energy Retrieval. We have Ultra Ball, so we can go ahead and get Bibarel if we want it, or we can get Radiant Alakazam. Bouquet Magic knocks out Phoebus, so we'll just go ahead and take that prize now, see what we get off the prizes before we play the Ultra Ball. And it's another Ultra Ball, what do you know? That makes playing this Ultra Ball that much easier. because now if we get something, we can also get something else. So if I had to choose one Pokemon, now I can kind of pick between two. Get the Bibarel and evolve it, and then I can Industrious Incisors for 2 more cards. We have a Level Ball and a Rare Candy. Level Ball is great because we want more Sprigatitos down, because it is possible that they could knock out my Meowscarada. And then I'm just going to swing 80, because even if I was able to damage this Tinkaton with a Bouquet Magic plus Radiant Alakazam combo, it wouldn't have been a one-shot knockout. It has a lot of HP. It's at 300 HP. So we'll just poke it for the 80, and then we'll work on knocking it out next turn. I'd much rather get rid of that Feebas so it doesn't evolve into my Lodic that's going to have a lot more HP that we won't be able to knock out as easily. They're getting some Gardevoir shenanigans set up. They've got Refinement, they have Shining Arcana, so they're drawing a lot of cards every turn now, guaranteed, no matter what I do. Even if I knock out a Kirlia, they have Shining Arcana. They also have the Stage 1 Tinkaton that can evolve into a real Tinkaton soon. They'll probably save that one for the non-EX. Actually, no, they probably need that to evolve into an EX if they assume that their active Tinkaton's going to get knocked out this turn. Searching for a Rezu that can get 3 evolution Pokemon that aren't rule boxes, I believe, and it didn't even show me what they searched for, which is very odd. So they do evolve into a Gather Materials Tinkaton, discard a card, draw 3. Discard that Milotic. Unfortunately, they don't get to evolve into that Milotic. And they have 10 cards in their hand, so right now, Big Hammer is swinging for 280 damage. Fog Crystal, so they got so close. They needed literally 1 more card in their hand to take the knockout on my Meowscarada EX. That would have been a 310 HP one-hit KO if they just had 1 more card. Play down Path to the Peak, and there's Big Hammer for 190 since they couldn't get the one-shot, so they went ahead and played some more cards down, which is definitely very smart. I'll immediately bump that Path to the Peak and Artazon for another Sprigatito. Colress's Experiment. We can get the Medicham. That could be cool later on. We need Grass Energy more than we need Rare Candy because I have Rare Candy in my hand already. And I can use these Grass Energies that are in my discard pile as like Ultra Ball discard probably, because I have a ton of Grass Energy in there. So go ahead and Bouquet Magic. We'll put 30 on Mew. We can knock out that Mew this turn. Or we could put pressure on the Tink. Actually, the thing is, we're not going to be leaving the damage on the benched Pokemon because I'm actually 2 away from knocking out the active. So I need to, I'm going to need to move damage from the bench to the active with a Radiant Alakazam, I believe. Or I could also move damage from the active to the benched Tinkaton. Or the Tinka Tough, whatever it's called, because it's only 10 HP away from being knocked out now. I also could have considered some sort of Yoga Loop play on it, which in hindsight, maybe I should have kept the Medicham and bench it and gone for that kind of play. But we're going forward with this. We'll knock out the active Tinkaton EX. That's really the threat. And then we already have the benched one that might evolve next turn set up with damage on it. We'll just move 1 damage, I believe. No, I need to move 2. I need to move 2 with Painful Spoons from the benched to the active because I'm doing 200 damage with the minus 20 from the double turbo energy. So yeah, Scratching Nails for the knockout. And this game is really going back and forth. So now this Meowscarada has 190 damage on it. They only have to do 120 damage to knock it out, which will be very easy for them. They're gathering materials. They've got 14 cards in their hand. With 14 cards in their hand, Big Hammer does 420. That's a lot of damage. Now they have 12 cards in their hand, so they could do 360 damage with Big Hammer. If this Meowscarada wasn't already damaged, they would be one-shotting it by a mile. Very interesting. They play Irida in this deck. That could probably be good for just getting like Manaphy plus Battle Pass. So they'll go ahead, Big Hammer for 360 minus 20 for the double turbo, so 340 damage. Knocking out this Tinkaton EX is not Well, if I have basic energy and I don't have the double turbos, I can do the full 220, which would bring that up to 260 damage. So I would need to like rope it to the bench and then boss it back up. So I'm probably not knocking out this active Tinkaton this turn. Colress's Experiment finds me. Rare Candy, also Rope. I think I want the Klara though. Klara could get back the Medicham, but it's probably too late for Medicham. I've already, I kind of just need to knock out this Tinkaton EX, but it could also help me because I could knock out Mew on the bench and then buy an extra turn and then knock out Tinkaton. But it also depends, like, can I even get into a double turbo energy this turn? I don't think I can play down enough cards to do that. But what I can do is knock out this Mew on the bench, damage the Tinkaton, and if they don't play a way to heal the Tinkaton, I'll just win next turn. So there goes Mew. Mew is a huge liability against Meowscarada, also obviously against Lost Zone decks. And I don't need to be moving damage with the Alakazam this turn. I can draw a single card with Bibarel's Industrious Incisors. It's just a Nest Ball. We'll go ahead and burn that. We don't want that in our deck anymore. And 220, so now this Tinkaton EX has 40 HP remaining. And let's see what they can do. They can one-shot our Meowscarada EX again. It's a shame they don't have another Tinkaton EX on the bench to retreat into and swing with, because look how much damage they're doing. 18 cards in their hand? That's a ridiculous amount. They could reach like 540 damage. There's a Tinkatink, Pidgeot V, so they don't deck out. They can just put that at the bottom of the deck, have a 1-card deck. 15 cards in their hand, and Big Hammer for 430. And as long as I just have an energy, I will win the game here. So I have a 9-card deck. I can draw a card or two with Bibarel maybe, depending on what I can play down out of this hand. We'll have to see what I top deck, and then I can Colress's Experiment. Or I can just top deck the double turbo and have a funny ending to this fantastic match of Meowscarada EX versus Tinkaton EX. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.